We're going to be looking at some exercises in the workbook for Dwayne Garrett and Jason DeRouchie's textbook. The textbook is a modern grammar for biblical Hebrew, and here's the bibliographical information for it. And we'll be mainly looking at exercises in the workbook, and here's its bibliographical information. So getting that out of the way, we are looking at page 15 of the workbook, and it's in chapter 4. And we'll look first at these construct chains. So we want to begin with this first one here, which is Chomat Yerushalayim. Chomat Yerushalayim. Now this first word could be confusing because you won't find it directly in the vocabulary. So I need to point out something from the textbook. So this is page 26 of the textbook. So here is the vocabulary word, Homa, but notice over here, after it mentions the gender, which is feminine, it gives you another form over here. This is Chomat, and Chomat is the construct form. The feminine construct is not covered in the textbook until chapter 12, but it looks different. Notice that the hey at the end is gone, and instead it's replaced by a tav. Then the vowel changes from a kametz to a patach. So over here we have the construct form of the noun choma, and that means wall. So we have Chomat Yerushalayim. And because Yerushalayim is definite, it's a proper name, and proper name is always definite, the entire construct chain is definite. As we've learned, a construct chain is either all indefinite or all definite. And the default translation of a construct is something of something. So here we have wall, but it would be the wall of Jerusalem. Since the entire construct chain is definite, we have the wall of Jerusalem. Okay, let's move to number 2. Zahav Mitzrayim. Zahav Mitzrayim. So here we have another construct chain, and we have the first word is going to be our word for gold, zahav. Notice we have the absolute form over here. It's zahav. Notice the full vowel there, that kametz. Here the vowel has reduced, and we need to explore why just briefly. A construct chain is considered to be a unit. And so this whole package is taken to be a unit, and this entire package has only one accent, and you see it over here. It's on the second to last syllable of Mitzrayim. Here it's explicitly marked, so it's on the second to last syllable, so we have Mitzrayim rather than Mitzrayim. Because the package has only one accent, so this first word loses its accent. The accent's way over here. What this means is that this vowel is pro-pretonic. It means that it comes more than one syllable behind the tonic or the accent syllable. So pretonic is one behind. Pro-pretonic is anything that is farther than one behind. And if you remember the vowel rules, in originally open, this was originally open, za. So if we have a full vowel in an originally open syllable that becomes pro-pretonic, that vowel typically reduces. And so here we have it reduced to a vocal schwa. So it's Zahav Mitzrayim. This is the construct. And so we have gold, and we have Mitzrayim as Egypt. The gold, since Egypt is definite, gold is also going to be definite. The gold of Egypt. Okay, let's look at number 3. We have Mot Mitzri. Mot Mitzri. As we saw over here, where the noun chomat is different in construct, the noun mavet, death, is also different in construct. And you can find that also in the vocabulary list. You see the regular form here is mavet, but over here we see the construct form, which is mot. So again, this was page 26 of the textbook. So let's come back over here. We have Mot Mitzri. Mitzri is Egyptian. Egyptian is not a proper name because we could have either an Egyptian, meaning an indefinite Egyptian, or the Egyptian, meaning some particular Egyptian. So although Egyptian sounds like it might be a proper name, it's more of a descriptive noun. And so we have death of an Egyptian. I suppose it could be a death of an Egyptian as well. Either way, the death would be indefinite. Okay, let's look at one more here. We have Kali Zahav. Kali Zahav. Kali means vessel. It doesn't change. It's the same whether it's absolute or construct. And Zahav, as we saw before, is gold. So here we would just have vessel of gold, possibly a vessel of gold. Either way, it's indefinite. Note the flexibility of the word of. A vessel of gold means a vessel made of gold. So just as in English, our preposition of can mean a lot of different things. The same is true of the construct relationship in Hebrew. Okay, there's one more in the workbook. Let's take a look at that. That is number 5 over here. Here we have Tzava Yisrael. Tzava Yisrael. Come back over to the textbook on page 26. Here's the noun, Tzava, and here is the construct form over here, Tzava. Notice the first letter reduces, and that again is because of propretonic reduction. So we have Tzava Yisrael, and that is going to then be army, but because Israel is definite, it will become the army or the host of Israel. Let us go through some of the translation exercises. We're still in the workbook. We're still on chapter 4 on page 15. Look at number 1 here. Let me read it. Yesh Navi B'Yisrael. Yesh Navi B'Yisrael. And this is our particle of existence. There is Yesh. And then we have a noun here, Navi, which is prophet. And here we have a bait preposition in front of a noun that we recognize, which is Israel, Yisrael. So we're looking at there is a prophet in. The bait preposition means in, by, or with. I suppose we could say by Jerusalem, but normally we'd say in Jerusalem. Well, there's our first one. Second one here is an example of a verbless clause. We have David Sar B'Yisrael. So that is ba Yisrael, which would be in Israel. And so we have there is a prophet. The bait preposition can be in, by, or with, so it could be by Israel. But we would say there's a prophet in Israel. The second one is an example of a verbless clause, also known as a nominal clause. We have David sar b'Yisrael. The last part is the same as the previous example. So we have David, sar, ruler or leader. So literally we have David, leader in Israel. But because we have two nouns here, we have David and leader, we could say David was, or let's say possibly is, leader in Israel, or ruler in Israel. So it's not in the sentence, but we're supplying it. So David was, then we'd probably say a leader. There is no definite article, and Hebrew does not have an indefinite article. So we could say David was a leader in Israel, or if he's the only one, we could say David was ruler in Israel, or perhaps over Israel. Let's look at the third one here. Ein choma v'Yerushalayim. Ein choma v'Yerushalayim. Now this noun here at the end is Yerushalayim. It's Jerusalem. There's a note here, note 1, and it tells you that that when you have a bait, as you have here, then interesting things can happen. Since you can't have two vocal shawahs together, this shawah is going to convert to a hirik, and then a special rule with yods is that this one is going to disappear. We haven't gotten that far yet in terms of special rules with yods and shawahs. So we have here the Yerushalayim, and it's the equivalent of the bait preposition plus the noun Yerushalayim, Jerusalem. So we have ein, there is not, choma, wall, a wall, and then notice that there's no dagesh leni here in this bait. Normally at the beginning of a word, you would see a dagesh leni in this bait. It is a bagad kafat letter, but because of the vowel right before it, the choma, I'm pronouncing that as v'Yerushalayim rather than b'Yerushalayim, because there's no dagesh leni. Sometimes when there's a vowel right before a bait, the dagesh leni will not be there. Doesn't always happen, but it can happen. So normally at the beginning of a word, a bait would have a dagesh leni in it. It would be pronounced as a hard B as in boy. In this case, since it comes after a vowel, it does not have a dagesh leni, so it's now has a soft V as in Victor. And so what we have here is there is not, and then a wall, I'm adding the indefinite article, in Jerusalem. There is not a wall in Jerusalem. Let's look at number 5 here as a compound. We have ein eved o melech b'shamayim. Ein eved o melech b'shamayim. So there is not, and we have eved is servant, o means or, and then melech is king, Bishamayim. Here we have in heaven. Shamayim is heaven. It can also mean heavens, but probably here it's heaven. So we have, there is not I'll add the indefinite article, a servant or a king in heaven. And if I'm talking about a class of people, I could probably say something like, there is not servant or king in heaven. That would also make sense. Let's look at number 7. We have Yesh Shanayim. Notice the accent here before the final syllable, so it's on the second to last syllable, so it's Shanayim. Yesh Shanayim Milakim Birushalayim. So we have Yesh, there is, that's our particle of existence again. Shanayim is 2. Now we can also see this in a different form. This word can also appear as Shanay, so it could be either one. But Shanayim is fine, and we have Yesh Shanayim Malakim. This is kings, this is a plural. Malakim is the plural of our noun melech. We haven't had plurals yet, but we've seen some examples of them. For example, in the vowel reductions, we saw some examples where if we put an eem on the end, then the first vowel reduces. This eem is a plural, and it's the very common masculine plural ending. And so we have malachim, which is the plural for king. And so we have 2 kings, that's the plural. And then we have Birushalayim, which is what we saw above, and that's, again, in Jerusalem. So we have, there are 2 kings in Jerusalem. Number 8 is another example of a verbless clause or a nominal clause. We have Moshe Rosh Am. Moshe Rosh Am. So literally we have 3 nouns in a row here. And we have to sort this out. Putting them all together, we have Moses, head, people. And so I think we're probably looking at the to be verb going between Moses and head. So Moses was or is head of a people. We would probably translate that as the people, even though there is no definite article. But what we see here is Moses was head of a people. So what I'm looking at then is that this second word, Rosh, is in construct with the third word, Am, which is people. And this is masculine singular, so that form would be the same, whether it's absolute or construct. But it makes sense to put this in construct with the noun after it, head of a people. So then I would put the to be verb between Moses and head. So Moses was head of a people. Let's look at number 9 here. We have Yesh Shetei Nashim B'Chatzer. Yesh Shetei Nashim B'Chatzer. Now here we have a different word for 2. It goes with feminine nouns. And here we have Nashim. This is our word for women. It's a plural. It's an irregular plural in that it has a masculine plural ending. But it is women. It's a feminine noun. As we'll see, very common nouns like man, woman, brother, sister often are irregular. So here is an alternate word for 2 that goes with feminines. This is also discussed on page 27 of the textbook. So we have, there are 2 women, nashim is women, and then we have our preposition beit and then chatzer. And chatzer means something like a courtyard, a yard, a village. So there are 2 women in a courtyard. And I'm supplying the indefinite article a, even though Hebrew has no indefinite article.